Hello to all of you. I'm Joe Legend. I want to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart. It's everything to me, and there is nothing that I would rather do than to discuss and talk about the following. And that is this. You were created, the one infinite creator, God, created you perfectly. You are divine perfection because God is divine perfection. And what is the game of life but being born into a body and forgetting your true identity as a son of God? There was a time when you did not have free will. The Bible calls this state the Garden of Eden. Here, all of your needs are taken care of. Then there was what the Bible refers to as the fall, or the descent, which may more accurately be called the separation. The separation was what gave you your free will. And so now we're born into bodies and we have amnesia for what came before you existed in the flesh. That's what incarnation means. In the flesh. What is in the flesh? The soul. And so before you had free will, there was the constant memory of the Creator. Anyone you saw, you could see all of them. And what happened was, and it was like a constant orgasm all of the time, the most powerful imaginable connection to the Creator was always present forever and always. There was nothing but the one infinite Creator and the awareness and memory of the living God. And what happened is this. The universe itself, the cosmos itself, realized that it wasn't getting the full experience of what life could be because there was no need to do anything. You had everything. What is there to do? Imagine playing a game of poker. And imagine this is the longest game of poker that you've ever played. It's your life. Imagine you can see now all of the holdings of what the players have. It's almost like they're face up. You know exactly what their holdings are. And so playing the game is but a child's game. There's no risk involved. There's no point in betting. You already know everything. And so the universe itself, the cosmos itself, the Creator, if you will, discerned the idea that instead of everything being infinitely big, open, and connected, terrible idea. How about everything can be infinitely small, disconnected, and closed? The creation of this, done by actually there were three experiments, the last of which was successful, was done by the entity called Lucifer. This was what gave you your free will. Now, I'm not defending evil, but I'm trying to show you how this crazy game of life began. Now, instead of having constant awareness that the Creator is all things, that you are the Creator dwells in you, that the Creator dwells in the one that you're looking at. Instead, drop a veil between yourself and the rest of the creation. And this is what the ego is. The belief that you are a separate entity with really no connection to anything outside of yourself. And so the game, again, is to remember that God is here now, that there is no separation. And this is a very, very, very fascinating and interesting thing. The Bible says to be in the world, but not of it. There is a strange way of dwelling in the world where you are here, but it's like you're a passerby. You know that you're not going to stay here, and so you can sort of watch it as though you were afar from it. Because what happened in the free will experiments was that these three entities who were responsible for severing the bonds of love between you and the Creator, wherein your divine perfection dwells. These three entities had to be taken care of. And the only way that they could do this was that these entities were placed in matter itself. A Course in Miracles says that the circle of fear lies just below the level that the body's eyes can see. It's almost like there's this circle that is below the level of visual perception of physical things. And if you don't use your free will to latch on to the Creator, your true will, the reality in which you dwell, this physical plane, has a way of pulling you down. So the will means that it's like a ladder, and you are moving up the ladder and moving closer and closer to the Creator. You're fighting gravity, death. I wish to read something from A Course in Miracles about this so-called death. Death is the central dream from which all illusions stem. Is it not madness to think of life as being born, aging, losing vitality, and dying in the end? Death is the symbol of the fear of God. Now, there is a major error in thinking that is extraordinarily common in Christian circles, and that is that Jesus died for your sins. The crucifixion of Christ is not what established the atonement. It is the resurrection that established the atonement, which opened the way for everyone on this planet. One entity who learned the lesson that we've been speaking about perfectly can save the entire world. The resurrection is the awareness that there is no death. Christ didn't die. And to look at it from the upside down perspective that Christ died, that doesn't make any sense. Christ cannot die, for Christ isn't a body. It's not a body. It's an eternal mind or spirit or soul. Incarnation means in the flesh. What is in the flesh? The soul. Christ showed us that kill my body. It doesn't matter, bro. I'm not a body. I will learn that even in death is life. Holy shit. And what's great about Christianity is that Buddhists, for example, essentially reach what I would just simply call heaven through meditation. This is called ascending. But what Christ did was found life in death, the resurrection, and it's a different thing. You hear stories of people who have died, who have had out-of-body experiences. They report going through a tunnel of white light and entering into a region of pure love, pure light, so far beyond anything that you could ever find in this physical world. And so the error of thinking that I urge you to consider is the way that you aim your mind. It's a very important concept. How you aim your mind involves your intention, because you always will find that which you seek. If you seek the eternal, you knock on the door of heaven. It shall open, not in time, but into timelessness. I want to go into this light a little deeper. I am referring to the light that people who have left the physical body through dying enter into. One researcher in the field studied for 20 years and researched over 10,000 individual cases where people have physically died to this world, their body no longer functions, and they have entered whatever they is, consciousness, enters into absolutely transcendental light. In over 10,000 cases, negative experiences, hell, if you will, there was only 3 of them. This is an argument for the eternal nature of the soul. Were all of those persons Christian? No. Did all of them go to heaven? Yes. Why? Because that's what you are. But you're born into a body and you forget what you really are. Plato, the philosopher, says that when you are born into a body, you drink from the river of forgetfulness and lose the memory of your divine nature. And their reincarnation does exist. Once you become aware that you do have a free will and you can choose your own destiny, that's when you start to plan your incarnations. So you live a life, you die, you review the life. I know the science of this. You review your life, and then you're able to plan a new life. So the older or wiser that a soul is, the more the life is carefully designed. Plato also said that of all the lots in life that a person can live, someone who wants all this power for themselves, to be a tyrant, that's the most deceptive or deceitful of all lives to live, is to be extraordinarily famous, because it causes the person to believe in something that's not really true to the nature. Because if you start hurting people in order to gain more power and recognition, you have lost the way. But anyway, what Plato said, that the ideal life to live was somewhere not too exalted of a life and not too depreciated, but to just be a private citizen who minds his or her own business. That is the ideal life, according to Plato. And certainly we need plenty of time to think about these things. Because it's what really matters in life, is the memory of your soul and your eternal nature. Because although you were created perfect, your perfection was absolute, and the creation itself realized that it wasn't getting the experience, the full shebang, shall we say, of what is possible. And so Lucifer dropped a veil, separated your mind from everything else that exists, gave you free will now, and you're able to discern. You have to guess at, I don't want to say guess, but you have to use your intelligence and try and figure out what other people's intentions are, what is that person feeling, so on and so forth. And that the universe itself did realize that by the time a person has gone from heaven, gone through the fall or the separation, and climbed back up the ladder to heaven, this is a much more rewarding experience. But again, I urge you to not become trapped in this world of images that we live in. Okay, you are perfect, but the world that you live in is not perfect. It is a world of images. Think of a shadow. Okay. Imagine a wall, and on the wall you see a shadow, say of a hand. Where we live, we're pointing to shadows, saying, that's real. When you awaken, or have a dream of awakening, more accurately, you, for the first time, glimpse, oh, that shadow is being created by a hand. It's in the background. No one, except for Christ, really fully awakens in this world. Well, that's not really true, because there is some of the Buddhists are doing what is called the rainbow body phenomenon. Get this. They reach such a divine state of mind, and they have a technique that's worked out where if your mind, if you don't have a single unloving thought or feeling for 13 years, you live in a perfect state like Christ of sinlessness, you get to ascend into that higher realm, beyond the world of images, shadowy world in which we live, which itself is imperfect. Get this though. After they have left the physical body or died, something incredible happens. And you can research this yourself, and I encourage you to. The body shrinks down to being less than 10 inches within a week. They reach enlightenment. They have a perfect awareness of love, no thoughts of harm or sin. They die physically. They ascend onto the next density, the density of love. The body shrinks down very, very small. Wow. It's called the rainbow body phenomenon. And I encourage you to research it. I think we Westerners are in a precarious position because, unlike the East, where they have Buddhism, they're allotted an environment in which you meditate daily and are just present and going into the mind, inner technology, if you will. We in the West have a cognitive disorder. What we need to do in the West is untangle the knot that's been created by science. Science, which, although it can be used to create all kinds of gadgets in this shadowy world of illusion, science separated the mind and the body in order to make these inventions. And so this philosophy of life looms in the background of our society always. Science, whether you realize it or not, is like a religion. People believe in it. Of course, there is a problem. One of them being that although science is like a religion, the people who really subscribe to it consciously don't realize that it's an illusion or that it is a religion, and therefore are blinded to their own presuppositions about it. Second problem with science, which is what guides us in our everyday living, which puts us in knots as Westerners, is that science cannot guide us morally. Science can discern parts, but there is nothing implicit in science that you can say, this is good, this is bad. For that, you need something else. You need mind. You need soul. You need spirit. And the problem is that you cannot live life guided by science and think that you're only living by science. There is always some moral, ethical, spiritual weight behind what you decide is good in science and what is bad. Most are blind to that as well. And so there is another way of being in the world where you're not really here at all. Because you're not really a body. You indwell in body. Whatever you is. Eternal spirit. And you're here, apparently, in this world, but once you've connected to heaven, the world looks a little brighter. You smile more often. There's a light in your eyes. You feel calm. You feel at peace. You hold your head high, knowing no sin has ever touched you. And you're fully one-pointed in your desire to see all people as the Creator, as we knew before the separation, before the fall. And what is life but the game of remembering this?